After a decade of being defined by one relationship, Selena Gomez did something unexpected. She disappeared. Not from fame, not from music, but from romance. For 5 long years, while the world obsessed over her ex and his whirlwind marriage, she stayed silent. No drama, no public tears, just silence. But now, she's back. And not just back in love, but glowing in a way that can't be faked. What happened during those lost years? What broke her down? And what rebuilt her stronger? In a rare and raw moment on the Table Manners podcast, Selena finally spoke without filters. With Benny Blanco, her now fiancé, by her side, she revealed truths that left fans stunned and critics silenced. It wasn't just about moving on from Justin Bieber. It was about reclaiming her identity, rebuilding her heart, and learning what love really means when it's no longer for the cameras. This isn't another Hollywood rebound. It's a full-circle redemption arc, and what she shared wasn't just emotional. It was healing. The kind of healing that changes your voice, your energy, even the way you look when you walk into a room. And the internet noticed. So what did Selena say that had everyone listening for the first time in years? What truths about Justin, about herself, and about Benny left millions with their jaws on the floor? Let's break it all down, starting from the silence that followed the storm. For nearly a decade, Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber played out a love story in the public eye that was as magnetic as it was messy. From red carpet appearances to cryptic Instagram captions, their romance was a constant cycle of breaking up and making up. And when it finally ended for good in 2018, the silence that followed was deafening, not from the media, but from Selena herself. While Justin shocked fans by getting engaged to Hailey Baldwin just months after his final split from Selena, she quietly disappeared from the dating scene. No hand-holding in paparazzi shots, no gossip column flings, just stillness. It wasn't because she was over it. It was because she wasn't. In her own words, Selena admitted she felt haunted by that relationship. Haunted not just by the love that ended, but by how unwilling the world was to let her move forward. In interviews years later, she reflected on how difficult it was to heal when millions of people were clinging to the past she was trying to bury. The Jelena fandom, a force of its own, had etched their relationship into pop culture history, refusing to see her as anyone other than Justin's ex. That kind of legacy doesn't just fade, it follows you. And for Selena, it was like walking through life with a ghost. But while everyone waited for her next headline, Selena chose to disappear, not to hide, but to rebuild. When Justin Bieber shocked the world by marrying Hailey Baldwin in a matter of months, the internet exploded, not just with heartbreak, but with suspicion. It didn't feel real. Not to the fans, not to the media, and especially not to those who had watched Jelena unfold like a live soap opera for nearly 10 years. Suddenly, the golden boy of pop had a ring on his finger, and it wasn't Selena putting it there. Whispers turned into full-blown conspiracy theories. The most talked about one? That Justin and Hailey's union wasn't as spontaneous as it seemed. Rumors began circulating that the marriage had been encouraged, if not orchestrated, by their church leaders. A kind of spiritual matchmaking, not out of passion, but pressure. Though never confirmed, the idea struck a nerve. It felt too rushed, too convenient. And for Selena, watching it all happen from the sidelines must have felt like salt on a wound that hadn't even begun to scab over. Meanwhile, social media buzzed with questions no one could answer. Why hadn't Justin taken time to heal? Why did he move on so quickly after a relationship that had defined his 20s? Fans speculated that he was running from the pain, from the guilt, or maybe from the weight of a love too complicated to carry forward. Selena didn't speak during this time. She didn't defend herself or feed into the frenzy, but inside, she was unraveling quietly. The world saw a fairy tale unfolding, but for her, it felt more like betrayal wrapped in wedding vows. After the storm had passed, Selena didn't jump back into dating. She didn't post cryptic captions or show up with a rebound at award shows. Instead, she chose silence, real silence. For 5 years, she stayed single, and not in the glamorous, flirty kind of way tabloids love to romanticize. It was the kind of solitude that leaves you staring at the ceiling at night, wondering if anyone will ever love you the way you needed to be loved. She confessed during her podcast appearance that she hadn't liked anyone in a very long time. Sure, there were dates, some forgettable, some plainly awful, but nothing that made her heart stir, nothing that made her feel seen. She said she was embarrassed when she finally did feel something again, like it had been so long that She forgot what it meant to truly connect. During that time, Selena made peace with being alone. She even told herself that if she didn't meet the right person by 35, she'd adopt a child. Not out of desperation, but out of contentment. That was her backup plan. A quiet, solitary life that she would choose instead of settling for someone who couldn't understand her, someone who couldn't handle the weight of her history or the depth of her heart. Most people are terrified of that kind of aloneness, but Selena leaned into it. She let it shape her, sharpen her, heal her, and in that stillness, she unknowingly created space for someone unexpected to step in. Benny Blanco wasn't a headline. He wasn't a heartthrob. He wasn't someone the eye media linked to Selena in dating rumors. In fact, when they first met, he was just her friend, a producer, someone she trusted. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was just showing up, being real. And after everything she'd been through, that authenticity hit different. Their connection didn't start with fireworks. It started with small moments, with laughter, with quiet understanding. And then came that first kiss. Selena said it took her off guard because it wasn't just a kiss. It was the first time in 5 years that she felt something behind a kiss. It wasn't empty. It wasn't routine. It was real. And it scared her a little. She didn't want to be the girl who caught feelings too quickly. She didn't want to admit that this friend, the one who knew her shadows and not just her spotlight, might be the person who saw her most clearly. But Benny was patient. When she started to pull away, unsure, he asked her gently, "Are you okay?" And her guard cracked. That moment, simple as it seemed, was a turning point. It wasn't love at first sight. It was love that snuck in through the cracks, waited quietly, and settled in before she even realized it was there. And this time, she didn't have to pretend. She didn't have to perform. With Benny, she could just be. Before Benny, Selena had written a list, not for Instagram, not for her fans, but for her therapist. A private roadmap of what she truly wanted in a partner. It wasn't a fantasy list filled with wealth, fame, or charm. It was grounded. It was real. And above all, it was honest. She wanted someone in her age bracket, someone kind, someone who cared about others as much as they cared about themselves. She didn't care what they did for a living, as long as they were passionate about it. Even if they made olives for a living, if they loved it, she'd support it. That's the kind of connection she was searching for. When she looked back at that list after meeting Benny, she was stunned. He checked every box. The simplicity of her needs matched perfectly with his genuine personality. But Benny didn't just meet her expectations, he exceeded them. He loved her deeply, but he also respected her boundaries. He knew how to match her energy without overwhelming it, and how to calm her storms without dimming her light. During the podcast, Benny called Selena the most beautiful person, inside and out. But he didn't just mean her looks. He talked about her humility, her softness, her bashfulness, the parts of her the world doesn't always see because they're too busy focusing on headlines. And that's when Selena knew this wasn't a coincidence. This was something real, something worth fighting for. By the time Benny proposed in December 2024, it wasn't a surprise. It was a natural next step. There was no dramatic spectacle, no public announcement designed for likes and shares. Just a quiet, deeply personal moment between two people who had finally found their match. Selena talked about how Benny brought her peace. Not the kind that's passive, but the kind that anchors you. When she's anxious, he grounds her. When she's excited, he matches her energy. They move in rhythm, and for someone who once felt like her heart beat out of sync with the world, that means everything. He didn't propose because it was time. He proposed because it was right, because he had already found his home in her. He didn't need fireworks. He just needed her yes, and she said it with more clarity than she'd ever said anything before. In her May 2024 Time interview, Selena admitted she used to think happiness would come from being saved by love, but now she knew better. She saved herself first. Benny didn't complete her. He added to her. That was the difference. The public noticed the change. She looked lighter, brighter, like someone who had finally shed years of emotional armor. And while the headlines kept comparing her to her past, Selena had already stepped into her future. No matter how far Selena moves forward, there's always a shadow chasing her, one shaped like Justin and Hailey. Even now, fans and media can't resist drawing lines between their lives, and sometimes the coincidences are too obvious to ignore. When Justin and Hailey posted Disneyland photos eerily similar to ones Selena and Benny had shared weeks earlier, the internet exploded. Matching outfits, same rides, same backdrops. It was like watching a deja vu in real time. A TikTok montage went viral, comparing both couples side by side. Was it innocent? Maybe. Was it intentional? No one knows. But it stirred the pot once. Again, Selena has never responded to these moments. She doesn't need to. Her silence speaks louder than any clapback could, but it's a reminder that even now, she lives under a microscope built by a relationship she walked away from years ago. What's painful is that she could be glowing in her own joy, and yet headlines still drag her into old love triangles. It's a ghost that refuses to rest. And no matter how many times she tries to close the book, someone's always flipping it open again. But here's the thing, Selena's not looking back. Not anymore. She's not interested in comparisons. She's not interested in proving anything. Because when you've made peace with your past, other people's noise doesn't matter. Selena's voice has always been soft, but now it's sure. In the podcast with Benny Blanco, she wasn't the fragile girl piecing herself back together. She was a woman in full bloom, measured, grounded, and honest. She didn't sugarcoat her past. She acknowledged the loneliness, the pain, the years of false starts and quiet despair. But she also didn't give it more power than it deserved. Her healing wasn't about forgetting Justin. It was about remembering herself. She said Benny wasn't her only source of joy, and that was key. She learned how to be happy on her own. Benny just enhanced what was already whole. That's what made this love different. It wasn't rescue, it was partnership. They laughed on the podcast. They teased each other. But underneath it all, you could hear something deeper. Two people who genuinely understood one another, who had each other's backs, who weren't performing for an audience, but simply being present. After years of having her story told by others, Selena is finally telling it herself, and she's doing it on her own terms, with grace, with honesty, and with the kind of confidence that only comes from surviving what should have broken you. Selena Gomez didn't just return to the public eye, she reclaimed it, not as the girl who used to love Justin Bieber, not as the pop star fighting for relevance, but as a woman who stared down her ghosts, sat with her silence, and walked out of it more powerful than ever. Her story isn't a fairy tale. It's not a revenge arc. It's a resurrection. She let go of the fantasy, embraced the solitude, and opened her heart when it felt safe, not when it was convenient. And in that process, she found a love that met her where she was, not where the world expected her to be. Selena's glow isn't just happiness, it's peace. A peace earned through heartbreak, reflection, and growth. And while some will always try to drag her back into old comparisons, she's already far ahead, walking a path she paved herself. Because when you stop searching for the love that looks good on paper and start accepting the one that feels good in your soul, that's when everything changes. And for Selena Gomez, that change came quietly, then all at once.